This is Underground Connections, an inside look at the underground music scene. Our guest for this episode is Jia Wang. Jia is the founder and CEO of 6am, one of the leading electronic music organizations in the North American scene. We discuss obstacles, sacrifice, team building, and how to get more opportunities as a DJ. Here we go. So Nick's stepping in for Anna today. Thank you, Nick, for
happy
joining us, doing us a solid.
Thank you.
And today we have a very special guest, Jia of 6am.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me.
Man like Jia Wang, what up?
What up in a full circle with Nick.
I know.
Yeah, been on a episode of yours.
Round two.
Round two, let's get it.
This time I brought a tag team partner.
Yeah, right on. No, super excited to talk to Alex, Realize. So yeah, let's chop it up.
Yeah, so you're fresh off of your trip to ADE, and I'm sure you've got many stories, but overall, how was the trip? And
yeah, this past ADE was great, as most, as all ADEs that I've attended. Lots of great meetings with, agents, promoters, labels. I mean, just the whole industry gathers, over 500,000 people. The reconnecting with artists and industry peers, and really just soaking it all in. And for me, it's a personal refresher, just so, it's nice to know that what we do is a real thing. At least, out in Europe, it's really highly respected. And everyone takes it very seriously.
Oh, yeah.
Like the door person, the guest list person. I mean, everyone that's running these events, and you can feel it. So yeah, it's wonderful.
What stood out to you this year versus last year or prior years?
I just think the strengthening and deepening of our existing relationships. We can confidently say that a lot of these agents that we've been working with all these years, we can call them friends instead of just peers and stuff. I mean, we were invited to a really special dinner from one of the agencies, the Bliss office, which manages Emily Lenz, Pampa, Olgu's, all the good stuff. And it was great to also meet other promoters in other regions that do parties and festivals as well, because most of the time we only just deal with the agents. So it was kind of cool to turn around and be like, hey,
it's like your peers from other regions.
Right, exactly. Like, what do you do? So you're the LA promoter. Hey, you're the Argentina promoter. And it was great.
It was like the League of Nations of promoters.
Absolutely. And then afterwards, we were invited to the after party, which is up on a crane. And it's just like,
I know that crane.
It's like, who allows this? Like, what's the permit? Like, who is even managing, and it's just, we're in Amsterdam ADE. Everything goes, anything goes. Yeah.
Amazing.
Any specific highlight shows or artists that you caught this year?
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, we went to go see Kiki all night long, which is in a cool venue that used to be an old jail, old prison.
All right.
And she had back-to-back, DJs that was playing with her, but they were unannounced. And as we got there, we heard that the rumor would be with Armin van Buuren.
Okay.
At the time, we didn't really believe it. It's like, all right, just a rumor. And then sure enough, he shows up. And, look, I'm into techno these days, but, I started my journey with trance. Armin also means a lot to the LA community, just like LA electronic music community. If you've been part of the early 2000, mid 2000 eras, you just know how important he is, even for us here in LA. So to see him play his classics with a hint of techno, along with Kiki, who's the new up and coming Dutch techno queen, it was kind of cool to see that. So that was definitely a highlight. And then the school, Shelter, and Lo-Fi, Rather Lost Party. Those are three proper techno parties. You saw Oscar Milero, nice. DJ Nobu, DVS one back to back with Dasha Rush, Jocko, and Speedy J Store Party, which is 100% 360 live jam, and it's just like Blawan, Speedy J, Surgeon, Jocko. You're like, what is going on?
They're all up there at once.
They're all
too,
up there
right?
at once, just about to launch the whole venue. So very inspiring, and we take what we can get over there and try to bring it back here, whether it's the vibe, whether it's just how we see the staff treat the people, just everything about it. Like they're the model to follow. Yeah. So, and this goes even for artists as well. From artists to industry, and serious about it, which is great.
Yeah, the Dutch definitely know what is up. Store came up when I was on, did not get to go, but super stoked that you had a good time.
Yeah.
Like Surgeon, I feel like is rare. He doesn't come to LA that much.
Mhm.
Yeah,
So
he
you kinda
came
have
this
to-
past June.
Oh, shit, okay.
Yeah, and he did a proper set. It was actually for with Compound.
Okay.
Yeah, so that was very, very special having him at a warehouse, and he.
Oh, you guys brought him.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So that was very, very special. Yeah.
Actually, the last time, I mean, when you were the guest on the show, you were talking about like how forward thinking the Dutch are with like cups and eco-friendliness.
Sustainability, yeah.
Is that something that you've kind of picked on and are up on or are trying to implement with 6 a.m.?
Yeah, so it's definitely been talked about, but just the operation wise, I mean, we gotta hire a cup washer. I mean, at that point, or actually have a cup washer, because they're literally grabbing these cups and bringing. I mean, I was watching them. I mean, they're walking through the crowd with
Right.
hundreds of cups on their shoulders, and just really kind of watching how they do the operation. And it's something that we definitely admire and we've talked about as well. And I think in 2024 you may see some implementation of that. It is difficult to operate, but that's why I commend them for doing what they do. They do it like it's nothing. Like, it's easy. Just recycle. Do it like this.
Yeah, or even how, like, did you notice that anytime there's a porta potty situation, they still have running water, like actual running water, like a sink that you could fill your bottle up. Which I was like, dude, I tried to find like who has that technology to like bring it here myself and sell it, how can I even import this?
Even the portable to urinals, like the four-way.
Like four-way standing ones.
Guys, if you're not doing drugs or you're not crapping or shitting, so like
just do your business.
Right. Like, all right, I guess I'll just look at everyone while I pee, but it's all right. We're in Europe, whatever.
I thought it was weird at first, but then after I did it for the first time, I was like, this is the most amazing shit I've ever seen. And they'll just have it out in the middle of the city. So you leave the party and then you're like, oh, I gotta go again.
We gotta go pee. And
just like there it is. So good. But speaking of those, I did see them at Crossed recently.
Okay,
those
nice.
standing urinals.
Okay,
and then
nice.
I saw them at Portola. So they're starting to make their way over.
Nice. There you go. Awesome. Yeah, it's for the bigger festivals, or it's great.
But I don't know, maybe for Reform or something, you can
maybe
get some of that.
Don't worry. We're gonna be on it. Tommy.
And since you're still fresh off of checking out the European scene, is there anything that you think is missing here or in LA that we may, or maybe that we don't get enough of, that you like to see happen in 2024 or later?
Yeah, I also think the advantage of Europe is because they are so, liberal about this, that they're able to really turn really unique venues and, unique spaces into venues that they can constantly use. Like, it's built for it. Like, they have the infrastructure.
Right.
One of the, hard parts about doing what we do in, LA, doing the warehouse parties, is that every venue is a blank slate where we have to go in and essentially put the production together. That is where I think our disadvantage is that then it becomes inconsistent, right? Because every party, it's ultimately a new production, even though we're working with the same crews. It's just a different space, different acoustics. They have to bring it in and reset everything up and tune it. I mean, that's where I think the advantage that they have, and they're always going to do it better until we are able to get things a little more permanently built into it, right? So like, just like, why does it sound so good everywhere I step? Well, they do parties here, 4 times a week, for years, and they know what they're doing. Sure. Another thing, I also think it's a community that they foster. I mean, obviously, you don't see EDM kids at techno parties. You don't see techno kids at EDM parties. I feel like everybody respects each other's niche community within this vast scene that we're in. And even the venues and clubs, they vet for that as well. Like, just to make sure that, like, hey, we keep the vibe good. And I've heard from a friend, like, hey, why does clubs like Berghain and a lot of the European clubs, like, they just vet and check, like, just make sure. One, it's to protect the party vibe, but the other is to protect you, to make sure, like, hey, you're really ready to go in and see and check what this is about. So it's a two-way street. And I think that's something that we could, continue to foster and educate, which I feel like we have been with the stickering rules. But definitely brought up by Marco, what he observed is, I think we need to just be a little bit more intentional with our education. Just ask a few questions, like to just make sure, do you even know where you are? Or are you just lining up because you're a friend from
who's
Hollywood
playing tonight?
Right, exactly. Right, who's playing right now? So even at the school, like, one of the questions even from the guests is like, oh, who's playing right now? I was like, oh, well, who you here to see?
Yeah.
So you just drop a few names. Oh, okay, cool.
That's an easy test, right? Like if you don't know who's playing, if you don't know who's playing that
night, but it happens.
Yeah.
It happens. So.
Well, I won't be mad the next time I show to your party.
He's playing.
It'll be like Armin van Buren.
I love what they do at nowadays in Brooklyn when they let like 10, 15 people pool at the front after they've been admitted, and then they kind of break them down on the rules of like, this is a safe space and we don't want any phones on the dance floor at all. If you need help, there's someone walking around with a wristband. And
I see.
I love seeing like,
it's kind of like, like the way I explain it's like we're about to go on a ride in Universal Studios, or like, or like in any party, it's like, all right, this is what it's about. This is what the ride's about. This is what the journey's about. This is what you do and don't do. It's no different than that. Well, you're about to enter into our amusement park,
right?
And this is what you do and don't do. And you have to respect that, right? No one's like, screw that. I'm gonna just take my buckles off and jump around with the rides going on. You don't do that. So
well said. Yeah.
So question for you, I guess, kind of pivoting a little bit, is what is going on with the scene lately in terms of all the busts that are happening? I've heard of several parties kind of in the last couple months that are going. I mean, you don't need to blow up your spot in terms of where you're throwing stuff, but in terms of like, what are you hearing? Because I've seen comments on Instagram saying like, oh, it's upstart promoters getting mad, like swatting other promoters so that their parties can get attendance. Right. I don't know that I believe that.
Here's the thing. It's all speculations at this point. Right. It's one of those things like, even if you're calling, narking and whatnot, it's like, where's the evidence? How can we ever prove it? It's not like just someone from LAP is like, hey, I actually go to these parties. I know who it is. Yeah. So, I mean, I hope so, but like, it's all just speculations at this point. And like what I think, if things are true, then that's messed up because that goes against this entire ethos of
it's not Plur.
It's really not. And I don't care if you're super underground techno. I mean, Plur, at the end of it is respect. And like the respect, it doesn't matter what anybody is. I think that's like one ethos of it. What's funny is I actually already have a draft blog about it. It's like, this is ridiculous if this is really true. I mean, there's no room and space for it. And, true story, years ago, I'm not going to drop the name, but we did find out a person that was calling on Warehouse. And that person, obviously is no longer in LA and not welcome back to the city. And, if you know, and we'll just leave it at that. So if that is true, shame on the person. But like at this point, it's all speculations. I'm not going to sit here and agree with any accusations and stuff. That is just not what we do and not something I truthfully, need to focus on. Am I aware of it? Yes, I'm aware. But in terms of like focusing and spending my energy and time towards it when it's not something I can control, even if, so why even spend time on it? So
it's not slowing down your planning and your scheduling?
No, because, 15 years in the game, it's not like we started off throwing events from the get-go. And, there's always, with an obstacle, there's always an opportunity. And it's one of my favorite quotes, book titles, The Obstacle is the Way. What stands in the way, oftentimes becomes the way. So knock on wood, right? But if it comes... yeah, we'll be ready. We'll stay ready.
What do you think puts a venue at risk, and what are some ways to avoid parties from being shut down?
I think what we just talked about, I think making sure that the right type of people that, the well-intended people, the ones that really understand what it's all about. I mean, that's why in Europe and now in New York and now we're about to see at our parties why we're going to just make sure, that remains consistent. So obviously the type of people that are allowed in to these venues and stuff, and this is no knock on any person, any group and whatnot, it's just this is what we do, And we want to make sure that, we remain true to that and to also protect you as well, right? Because not everyone's down for it. There are people that go. I mean, I have friends, personal friends I grew up with that goes like, what the hell is this? Get me out of here. And it's like, we also don't want that either. So that's important. And it comes down to how you foster and create your community. Do you care about them? Do you even know who they are? Do you say hi to them? Or are you too cool, to even bother for that? And, there's obviously that is a big part because ultimately the people bring the energy and the energy creates the vibe. So if the people that are coming in are not the fit for it, it just puts everything at risk, not just the venues.
Right.
It puts our scene, it puts the event,
yeah,
puts everything at risk, even the booking, the DJ, who the hell am I playing for? So everything's at risk.
What are some ways, aside from asking, who's playing tonight, that you kind of try to curate the crowd at your events?
Can you ask that question again? Yeah.
I guess what are some methods that you guys use to try to kind of curate the crowd and make sure that the people who are showing at the party are the ones that are going to bring the vibe and not cause trouble?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's why we have a sticker policy. So anybody that consistently breaks it, I mean, we have
just in terms of the cell phones.
Right.
Yeah.
So just like, hey, are you someone that we tell you, hey, at least just something basic, like we're putting this on, and you're also signing a waiver. I mean, we also let people know that, hey, you're coming into a party, you need to sign and just agree to what we're doing, right? Because this is a safe space for everyone. And so in order to create that safe space, you have to, I don't want to say enforce, but at least put some sort of educational standards on that. And you can just tell, if they keep violating that over and over and over again, which sometimes does happen, that's how you can tell that they probably don't understand or don't really belong or they need further education or discipline. Yeah.
Got it. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like an honor system, right? But people who don't follow it, you can see them and then you'll kind of know, like, okay.
Right. Or like we see a group of them, it's like, well, who, what's going on? And we definitely assess. And look, with every party, we run the data, we get about 20% new people that buy tickets. So, each party, there's 20%.
Wow.
Right. New guests that are coming into this domain that are being, educated.
Right.
If you will.
I mean, the flip side of that's pretty phenomenal is that means that 80% of the party goers at every party are repeat guests for you guys.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah. I mean, that's why I appreciate the community so much. Absolutely. And it's why we continue to do what we can to serve them. Yeah.
Maybe if we rewind even further, why did you become a promoter in the first place?
Yeah, well, it's because I wanted to become a DJ.
Okay.
I mean, that is the most, I've been telling my story a lot. How did 6 a.m. get started? Back in the day of MySpace, when you see DMs didn't work back in the day, DMs still don't work today. And so I just want to throw that out there. But, what was interesting about every single flyer, they don't do it now, but every single flyer had like an affiliation, like, oh, well, Theo was part of this. And, that DJ was part of that, and I was not part of anything, even though I tried to be a part of something.
Yeah.
Like, get away, you're too much.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, I want to be a DJ, and it looks like if I'm not part of anything, then like there's no chance at all because I mean, what am I doing here? So I started 6 a.m. group, and from that I was blogging about events, understanding the scene, and posting them on MySpace and Blogspot at the time. So that's really the idea stood for. And like ultimately, even the reading blogs, it's like, well, if you want to be a DJ and that someone wants to book, I mean, you also need to bring a party as well. And I'm like, well, I don't, I mean, I have some friends, but they're not, it's not a lot of people.
Right.
So I decided to just jump in both. And I figured that wasn't easy. And, thinking back, it's actually a trick. Not a trick, it's a tip that I tell artists. It's like, well, if you want to talk to that promoter, the best way to get that person's guard down is saying, hey, man, I have 5 friends, 3 friends I like to bring. Do you have a discount list? At least that starts a conversation. It's like, you know what? Yeah, we do. It was like, oh, no, actually, we don't. It's like, oh, well, but at least now that promoter knows, okay, well, you consistently can bring 5 friends and, and it's a conversation starter. And no one's going to tell you, am I able to curse? Yeah. Right. no one will tell you to say fuck off. Like I'm not. Yeah. I don't need 5 extra people. Yeah. You know, you take and get what you get. So that is, you know, a tip. And I later realized, oh crap, you know, that was a way that no wonder why these promoters are nice to me, because now I'm bringing 10, 20 people, and then from that, say, hey, can I play the side room? All right, there you go, and then everything just kind of trickles down from there. I mean, you get it. I mean, you know, went from no gigs and now you're playing almost everywhere. So as you know how it goes. Yeah. You
got to find your way if no one will let you in.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like a good lesson in there too, is sort of when engaging with promoters, it's like, think about how you can bring value to them and not just sort of like, how can I take from you, right? So if someone's coming to you and saying, you have a do you have a discount list? They're also saying, I have people that I want to bring to your party. Right. So there's sort of a kind of spirit of mutual cooperation as opposed to like, gimme.
I mean, this is an evergreen industry tip that I have. I mean, obviously you want to be able to bring value to that person and do it in a genuine way, because, you know, I can totally see people seeing this podcast like, I'm going to start DMing all these promoters. Hey,
I have 10 people. Can I bring them?
I got 12 friends in Tokyo. Was wondering if you have you know, it's like, so don't do that if it's not genuine. Do it because you really do want your friends to experience this. And hey, this is a person that you want to connect with, and this is really how you want to help them. And don't expect anything. Don't be like, well, dude, I brought like 20 friends for you, like, you know, 4 times. Where's my, you know, I think don't be a this for that.
Yeah.
I call it that. Yeah. A tick for a tack.
Yeah. No quid pro quo.
Yeah.
I think even if it does come at place from inauthenticity, people will pick up on that, and it won't serve you to get to where you want.
Yeah, because you won't be consistent. And like the moment you like, you know, are not consistent, people are like, you're, you know, I mean, being authentic. Being authentic, you know, this is who you are. Yeah.
Wait, so how did you guys first start networking?
I did a guest mix for 6 a.m. And then I think like a couple of weeks later, I ran into G at a party, and I was like, this is my chance to finally say hello. I have a good icebreaker. I can just say like, hey, I did a mix for you guys. And
hey man, no, and it was a pleasure meeting you. And like, it's hard to miss as well too. I mean, I mean, it's been a pleasure seeing your journey as well too. I mean, you know, back in the Outspoken days, I know back when we were over at Clinic Wednesdays with Kenichi, we talked about that. And I remember seeing your name on the flyers and stuff. And obviously, you know, you've continued to keep pushing. So it's great having full circle moments. Not just with you, Nick, but even with Alex as well. So yeah, man, I keep, you know, and I encourage you to keep doing what you do.
Yeah, thanks. And actually on that note, maybe you have an answer for this spicy question. Why do you think content creators in the electronic music scene get such a bad rap versus like, say, cooking or visual arts?
Yeah, because people are thinking that content creators are exploiting. And here's the thing, right? Obviously, it's only half true. So people are seeing those that are exploiting versus, and they only see that.
Right.
There's no verses. There's like, you see, well, this is what this or that person did. And I'm not going to drop any names for just because. Yeah. But they see that it's being exploited in that way. So they instantly create this narrative and perspective that anyone and everyone that does this, you're exploiting it. But ultimately, it's just a platform for people to use to get their music out. Back to being genuine and authentic, right? I mean, are you doing this to exploit, or are you doing this because this is your only outlet? If you don't promote and push yourself and do something to really, you know, to get your music out there, like no one's going to do it for you. No one is going to do it for you, right? And even the ones hating on you or on others, I mean, they secretly want it too. I mean, I'm just going to say like they either want the attention, the opportunity, like whatever it is that is at the end result, they want that, but they're unwilling to stomach the fact that, you know, either something crazy needs to happen, like immense sacrifice, like what those guys at Tell of Us did, which is a crazy story, or, you know, it's easier to just complain and be like, you see, they suck. And I'm true, you know, to this art and craft, and there's no rules you know, I mean, there are principles. I mean, there are principles that guide it, right? That we should really understand that every industry should follow a principle. But in terms of how we make it, I mean, this is entrepreneurship, right? You are an artist. your music is your product and your performance is your service. Get it right. How do you get your product and service out there? There's this thing called marketing. Every industry spends billions of dollars in marketing. Music industry is no different. I mean, I didn't create this game. I didn't create this. I didn't create the rules. But by understanding how to leverage through authenticity, everyone can win. The losers are the ones complaining and not and unwilling to change. And people are gonna hate me for saying this.
I love that.
That's I think there's a meme that I saw where in most cases, anytime someone is complaining about the DJ, and don't get me wrong, sometimes you just don't vibe the music, right? But in most cases, what they're really saying is I wish I was up there. I wish I had that gig.
Yeah. I mean, and you have to understand these DJs. I mean, just on the average, who we pick up at the airport, they are beat up. They just took 16 gigs last month. They're here. They just got spat out by the airplane halfway across the world. And we expect them to kill it every time. They're jet lagged. They miss home. They're lonely. They're texting their girlfriends, wives, whatever. Sometimes trying to make up right there and then, the missing time with their kids. You don't know what they go through mentally, right? I mean, I've been traveling a lot just as a promoter, the traveling promoter. And I think about them. I go, wow, I am just doing this temporarily. And I'm kind of sucked out. I'm and nothing about their lives and what they do. And what they do is extremely tiring. And the only reason why most of them, I'm just going to say this. The reason why there are some that keep touring is because this is how they make money.
Right.
I know a musician. She's extremely talented. The reason why she started DJing, she's just legit, dude, I make more money DJing than I am being an insane musician. I'm man, crazy world we live in right now. And
meaning that she'd prefer not to have to travel.
I mean, I imagine. I mean, obviously she had a great time and whatnot. This is her first U.S. tour, but come on,
right?
Do 20 more of these, right? And she's got a busy schedule. I mean, ADE, we were there. People have multiple gigs, even going out of Amsterdam, then coming back. Or playing Amsterdam Thursday, flying out, and then coming back on Sunday. It's it's crazy.
Yeah, it's such a grind.
And we're just still there welcome back. It's awesome.
Did you guys ever see that there was a series on RA? They did a documentary series where they followed around a bunch of DJs on tour. They followed around Blessed Madonna and Nina Kravitz. And I remember the one thing that came through to me is kind of what you're saying, what a grind, a relentless grind it is, so DJs, for all the talk about just DJs partying all the time, they're actually working their asses off. And the other thing that came out was sort of how, to your point, how lonely it is. I think Nina Kravitz was the one who talked about it. She's I'm traveling around, I'm experiencing all these beautiful moments. And I have to come to peace with the fact that the only one experiencing it is me. I have no one to share it with.
The best way to just understand how this feels, on my flight back from AD, I watched the Anthony Bourdain documentary, Roadrunners. And, I'm pretty sure due to lack of serotonin and lack of sleep, I was balling. I mean, I get it. I mean, in the end, it's he is Anthony Bourdain. He knows he's Anthony Bourdain. He's done things, travel places that we can only dream of. And he said the exact same thing. What's the point when I don't have people to share it with? And just oh my gosh, it's as real as it gets. And it's the other coin. And on social media, if you post that, people are like, dude, go fuck off.
Fuck off. You get to party for a living.
You get to party for a living, etc. This is what you do and stuff. And part of it is true, but catch 22, flip side is the flip side.
It's careful what you wish for too, right?
Yeah. And you just have to learn to embrace and learn to water the grass that you're in, because the grass is always seemingly greener, but you just have to understand you got to take care of your grass and garden. That's how it's all going to work out, not because you keep jumping from grass to grass.
Yeah. Do you ever feel undeserving of your success, or that it will magically disappear? And
yes, absolutely. Which is, someone asked me the other day, actually in an interview, what keeps me humble? And it's actually this. It sounds dark as well. It's just, there were people in my lives who were just unimpressed by no matter what I do. I'm closing for Mark Knight. I'm opening for Charlotte. They're just unimpressed, and either it was hate or either it was just, hey, you know, they're just humbling me and stuff. That experience also did humble me, because at the end, we're not curing cancer or Alzheimer's, right? And it's like, we're very privileged to do this, to be able to wake up and choose this. That means we live a life privileged enough to be able to go down this path by choice. And so, you know, undeserving is a strong word and stuff, because that's negative self-talk. But I definitely think, you know, being super grateful, like, man, I am really, really grateful for this, even though this situation really sucks, even though, you know, all the money has been spent, even though, oh my gosh, this month is looking pretty rough, despite everyone saying congratulations. I mean, it's a weird feeling. So that is the weird feeling that is happening. I'll be candid as well, right? I mean, on the external, I mean, things are wonderful. I mean, but, you know, internal, I know the company, people on the team that may be watching this know the truth and reality of it, which is why, you know, we continue to work hard, which is why we stay humble, because this thing can go away. And what we just talked about earlier with what's happening in LA, it can definitely go away. You know, and how do we navigate that? COVID, you know, in 2020, I mean, that we were all supposed to have our best year ever. I mean, so that is what pulls me towards that. So undeserving in the past, but now I'm channeling that with gratitude. And I think a lot of people should really channel that more, because undeserving, that is, you know, it could take you to dark places. Yeah.
So all told, you know, do you feel like the pandemic was kind of a hindrance to your business, or did it help? Because in some respects, I look around and I feel like there was a lot of pent up demand coming out of COVID that really kind of supercharged the scene. Like, what would your assessment be? You know, hindsight 2020?
Yeah, I mean, what really hurt me was, I mean, straight up the black and white, the financials. I mean, events stopped. We had to pivot and turn into an online merchandise company. Now, in hindsight, the best thing that's happened was, we now have a full-fledged shop team that we're still trying to work and grow and work out the kinks. But had we not seen that opportunity, it would just always kind of just, you know, I don't know what it would be. And so, but we're having a lot of fun with that. And more importantly, I feel like because Marco and I didn't want to just lose touch with the community, we actually doubled down on our email blasts, actually becoming more of, you know, just
more engagement,
writing things to help us as well. You know, a lot of it was outward towards on how we can all come together, but thinking back, it was very therapeutic for us, and it helped us on our worst days. And I think we can only say that our community got stronger because of that. And, you know, just doing things like Ravecoin, you know, that launched Discord, and Discord is like honestly the best thing that's happened, I would say, the last like 5 years. And, you know, in terms of if we can pinpoint, you know, because now we're like directly with the community, with memes, and you're part of it. It's wonderful that you're one of the community leaders in our Discord. I mean, there's people, yourself, Jason, there's a few others.
I need to get on there. I didn't know about this.
I got my own emojis.
He has his own emojis. And like, it's wonderful. You promote your shows there. I love it. People are supporting it. I mean, it's great. And it's how you're using it, how it should be used. And so, it's awesome.
Of course. Yeah, I love it. And like, it's one thing that I think really helps 6 a.m. stand out is that it has like this really flourishing like online community. Like, you're at a party and you want to meet up with people, just drop in the channel and say like, hey guys, like, where are we doing the meetup?
Exactly. And it's super awesome because just at Compound this past weekend, like, they actually had like a meetup, and I missed it by a minute. They're like, too bad, sorry. And I was like, I love it. Like, no one's giving me no breaks and nothing. It's like, dude, catch us on the next one. We're going back to the raid. Like, all right, fine. And I love that. Like, it humanizes everything about us. And like, it's what it's about, you know? And now that we live in such a digital world where it is harder to just meet people face to face, I mean, this, you know, it's really special. So
it must feel really good when you see your merch like out in the wild, right?
Like, it is. Yeah. And definitely at ADE, we see them a lot at Awakenings. At all the parties,
like as far away as Amsterdam.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been amazing as well. And people on the street have stopped us, even with us wearing our merch. Johnny, who's actually the shop director, the designer, the other day, he was like, dude, Time Warner cable guys, like, hey, I go to your parties. And just the other day, me, Max, and Penny, who were also part of the shop team as well. We're at Shacktoberfest just getting ice cream. It's like, dude, I go to your party. He's like, I was like, stop. Like, what? But it just shows that this community is everywhere. People, they live lives, and it's real people that come to these events, and it's why we respect them so much, really. And this is a big shout out to the entire community for grinding, for investing in yourself to release whatever you have to release at our parties, for supporting us. It's does not go unnoticed.
Yeah.
Also, I'm surprised to hear that there's overlap between Shacktoberfest and 6 a.m.
Yeah, look, sometimes we, want to do something fun and goofy and stuff and to explore. And there's always something to learn at anything and every event that we go to. I mean, just check it out. Plus, I'm a big fan of Shack as well. Yeah.
Actually, that's a good segue. So obviously, as a entrepreneur, I can tell you have like a very strong kind of positive mindset. I know that you're a basketball guy. I know that you're a fan of Kobe. Are there any other sort of inspirations, whether it's books, TV, whatever, that sort of inform that mindset for you?
Yeah, people love and hate this person, but Gary Vee is definitely one. And I think it's because, different people need to be talked in different ways.
Right.
And I just needed, an uncle or older brother to just be like, dude, what the fuck are you doing? What the fuck are you complaining about?
Yeah.
Because I've always excelled when coaches did that to me. I've always, with a red personality, fire energy, it's like, oh yeah, I'll show you. Like, you come at me, I'm going to come at you. And it's that competitive nature. So people like him, David Goggins as well. A lot of these really in-your-face motivators, but I also like Eddie Pinero and Jim Rohn, who are more like calm and stuff, and they just talk more senses into you as well. I look for a lot of these online mentors because we need to feed that to ourselves. But it'll be ridiculous if I called you at 7 tomorrow. I'd be like, Nick, you can do great things. You know what I mean? Maybe I should.
Thank you. Be like, thank you.
Go on Discord, be like, yo, just drop your number here, and like just randomly, you'll get a text or a voicemail from me. Don't ever answer from a 323 number. And just like, dude, and I need that. I needed that. I went through some really dark places in this journey that like I needed to pick myself up. And I think years of that, also the Daily Stoic, which Marco gifted me also during that period. So Stoicism, that philosophy, control what you can as well. A page a day for 3 years, that will do something to you. And these YouTube videos, it's almost on a daily basis, just the first thing in the morning. Before all the junk gets to me, I want to make sure that, I'm feeling good. And I need to be more consistent on it because, sometimes ADE happens.
Right,
Yeah.
If we can circle back a little bit to Compound, which happened this past weekend, like that was a sold out show, right?
Yeah, it was. We hit max capacity, and the reason why we have to cap it is because for the safety of everyone at that sense. It's crazy to even think and say warehouse events are now sold out, but this is how big the scene is growing, and it's always a pleasure working with like-minded industry people, the big bros of Incognito and Dirty Epic, along with my peer and best friend, Marco from Synthetic Minds, who's also an integral part of the 6 a.m. work events, as everyone knows. So yeah, it's always a pleasure doing these bigger shows and just seeing the community. Wow, like I really dig this, and the DJs were great. Fadi Mohem, Fit Stigma, Patrick Mason, who I can still feel his energy, and obviously Viper Diva, Daddy Techno music. Yeah, absolutely crushed it.
So are you still involved with like a lot of the bookings and finding the talent, or do you have people kind of doing that for you now?
Directly with 6 a.m. and work and like the Reform Me, it's mainly Marco that drives it. At least internally, we don't need two people with this, shooting out the same emails, working towards the same thing. And now with Reform, obviously Andrew has been more involved in the bookings because it is multi-rooms, and some help is needed towards that. But in terms of discussions, alignment, me and Marco meet up every Wednesday morning at 6:30, Planet Fitness in Mid-City, LA. Too crazy from like 6:30 working out, and afterwards we align, we catch up on emails, we get personal check-in first and foremost, and then we align on bookings. Usually it's him updating me, hey, this is what we're doing. Are we good? Who should we book as support that's something that, I like to get a little bit more involved with, just because it is part of the community. And obviously with headliners, the guy knows what he's doing. I mean, he first introduced 9x9 and I Hate Models to Los Angeles when everyone was like, what are those names?
Yeah.
I mean, he brought him and crushed it. And from that moment, it's like this, he knows what he's doing on the booking front.
He's got his finger on the pulse.
Exactly. Yeah.
Are there any acts that you've been wanting to book for a long time that you're still trying to get
now you're going to get us upset. I'm just kidding. Yeah, I mean, obviously there are, but but the competition is also heavy as well. So Cass is one of them, but Cass played at Escape, I believe. I don't know if I'm saying this too prematurely, but Kiki was someone that we weren't able to get. Even despite wanting it, and even back in the day, way back in the day, we were eyeing Charlotte DeWitt before she completely blew up. We're definitely paying attention, and we're definitely working on other acts and stuff. There's more up and coming artists that are very exciting. That this thing is moving fast, so we are definitely putting a good finger on the pulse on the finger. Yeah.
I mean, it seems like between you and Dirty Epic and Incognito and Synthetic, you guys are all collectively big enough to be able to nab like a lot of big names. So is it really mainly sort of Insomniac that you're bumping up against for kind of the bigger names like the CDWs and the Carl Coxes?
I mean, it's not just Insomniac. I mean, it's Golden Voice, Framework.
Right.
But I mean, if we're trying to really elevate, right? I mean, with Reform and sometimes Compound, obviously we are trying to go for a more, slam dunk, like, hey, would you guys like to play in a bigger warehouse setting and whatnot? And look, I don't want to get into the nitty gritty of politics, right? But it's like if one road is looking like, hey, you're going to get like 9 other shows out of this, or, you could just play this one, I mean, as, just as a very black and white business transaction, what would you do for your artists, right? So it's like, you cannot blame them. Now, obviously, the big dogs, they are data driven. They understand, hey, how things are shifting and moving and stuff, and they move fast, quick, and and we just have to continuously do our part, which is continuously educating ourselves to educate the community. And if anything, we kind of like it. It challenges us to continuously be curious and learn instead of being content and comfortable. And if anything, part of our company culture is we hate comfort and content. Like when things are too just ask people on the team, like what happens? Like crazy projects start popping up. Like, dude, what the hell? Like, it's a good thing and bad thing as well. And I think, having this challenge creates an opportunity for us. And I think it's great for the entire scene, because that just means that, hey, more people are going to really, really be into this, involved in it. The industry and community is going to get bigger. And if you know how to navigate, and especially if you've been putting time and work, you'll eventually catch that wave. I mean, ultimately, that is our secret sauce. Like, if you want to know the secret, I just stayed in for 15 years and just kept doing it. And, obviously there are milestone things, but these milestones happen through just, brick after brick after brick that led to it. Just that most people quit after year 7, 8, 9.
Right.
Those are tricky years. The 7 to 9 is when people are like, I've done enough. And they quit.
So I guess as a CEO of like a successful promotion group, like a question I would have for you is kind of like, how many hours a week are you grinding away at this shit? Are you like what does it look like for you?
Oh gosh. All right. Back in the day when it was a lot leaner, definitely a lot. I mean, I had a full-time job. And I also launched a music festival in Guam here in LA, different time zones and stuff. So obviously all my hours after work were spent. I mean, I was spending another 4 or 5 hours taking meetings, either in person here in LA, doing promo work, social media stuff, or taking calls in Guam. So back in the day, it was definitely a lot of grunt work and brunt work. But what was nice about it was I always had a daytime job. So it was always a part-time growth, which is why it took 15 years to, I ride that like a laurel, but sometimes it's like, I'm kind of ashamed. It's like, yeah, it's been 15 years and we're still kind of just doing, this. But I understood, how to really grow it in a way where you hit your obstacles and you realize that you're going to need a lot more people because this is just a part-time thing, and look at how much more you can do with people that you bring on board who are also passionate towards it. And now these days, I mean, it ranges and stuff. I mean, I make my own hours, and sometimes we lose track. I mean, 40, 60, 80. I mean, do we count traveling? Do we count, all these things, that events that we have to be in? That's work. So it's like, but it doesn't feel like work.
Social media,
I can't even quantify it as well. I mean, I don't know, 60, 70, 80. I mean, that's usually average, but it doesn't feel like it. Right. And a lot of the times now, it's a lot of like building systems and building people up. It's like, hey, there's a team of 20 people now. They're real people. How am I building this so that there is somewhat of a pathway for them? So there's a lot of time just spent on thinking. Sometimes, I mean, my team would know, like, hey guys, I didn't do anything because I was just paralyzed on just the anxiety and just thinking, like how crazy this whole thing is. And that, I've had to hire a business coach to tell me, actually, that's work. Because I'm like, what's wrong with me? I sit here with this anxiety and I'm thinking, and and they're like, no, like you're supposed to worry about all these things and work on things that are immediate red flags, right? Is someone in the team very unhappy? Are we running out of money? Right? Which is, all too real and stuff, like immediate red flags. And it's like, okay. And it's like dealing with these red flags. It's not like, okay, you sit and work and all that. You got to really think and pull options out. And there's a different type of like stress. I call it toxic stress when I'm trying to like, So yeah, I mean, that's essentially how long I work and the type of work that I do. I know it doesn't sound like fun, a lot of meetings to make sure the leaders of each department, to make sure that they are in the right environment, that they have the right support, whatever that is. Like, do you have enough people on your team? Am I there for you enough as a human? Or, hey, how am I doing and stuff? So it's spending on growing myself so that I can be a better leader for the team is really a lot of my responsibility right now. And just making sure, and it's a weird transition. Sometimes I freak out at events because nobody needs me. It's like, get me to do something. Can I do this? Can I just like, no, we got to cover. And it's like, and I had to.
That's not a good feeling for you. That's not a relief. Like, oh, man.
It's good. Someone had to snap me out. I was like, what do you think it was going to happen? You're like, here's the team. Like, hey, to relax and stuff. Like, I had my festival director in Guam had to pull me to the side and like really like, hey, because I was getting mad at him. I was like, well, let me go pick up the food. He's like, nope. Someone's already on that. And it's like, I'm not doing anything. He's like, hey man, like, this is why we're here. Like you should be, it's like, isn't this what you wanted to? He's like, yeah, it's catch-22 in life. You get what you want. You get that gig, get that label. And for some reason it's not enough, or it's like, wait, I don't feel good about this gig or about this release anymore, or about what I've created. And, good thing I have really good people around me to kind of bring me back. Like, no, then you need to work on other things. It's like, yeah, you're right. And I have to go through a journey to realize, okay, this is what CEOs do for the company. And it's like, oh, it's a lot of like HR stuff. Emotional intelligence aspect of this, peer reviews and feedback and workshops and
kind of, I guess, a lot of admin stuff that you didn't.
We do a lot of weekly check-ins. Hey, are you working out 2 to 3 times a week? Are you, how are you feeling from a scale of 1 to 10?
That's great. You do wellness checks.
We do that, and it's on Asana. And like, if you don't do it, I follow up. Hey, I didn't see you to do this Asana. And it's like, really, this is what I do. Yeah. So this is what I do now at 6 a.m. to make sure they're good to go. And obviously, the more hard decisions, sometimes with bookings, finances, key decisions, like, hey, we're going to expand. Hey, we're going to do this project. I need a lot of people's buy-in on it. And sometimes a lot of time is thinking, how do I communicate to this person or to this group? And so, because I try to run it fairly in a sense of like, it's not just my decision. It's like, do we all feel good about this? Working towards that. Yeah.
I definitely appreciate like the vulnerability and like letting us in on some of that like internal conflict and all that.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think it's being authentic. You can't just tell people to be authentic and not be authentic yourself.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
yeah, no, and I welcome these questions. I mean, it's no secret. I mean, I learned it from other companies, books I read, my personal experience. I have courses on Artist Map, made it free or super cheap. These, it's all information that are there. So it's not rocket science. You just got to do the work.
Which is right. A core value, I think, of what you guys do, and obviously the name of your party.
The name of the event is called Work, and just to remind, we're all working. You have to work during the week to buy the ticket. We're putting in the work during the week as well to make sure this event goes well. And then at the event, we're all, working on the dance floor. And it's an important ethos, I think. It's very underestimated in today's fast world. But
would you, as far as your sort of personal core values, would you sort of place that at the top? Work?
In terms of like how you should approach your goals and like how you should approach an opportunity, even your 9 to 5 as well, even to looking back there, my mindset wasn't right. And so, yes, because that's something that I saw firsthand from my parents. I mean, they were rushed. My dad is 99 years old. He's about to be 100. He was still working at a restaurant when I was 10 years old. He was 70. He's still grinding as a chef, Master Wang, the chef. My mom, too, was at the kitchen. She was a sous chef. They worked until they couldn't work. So, and just naturally, Asian ethnicity, that's our culture. So, yeah, it's definitely, if you're going to go after something, you should put in the work. And I wasn't always like this. I was a lazy kid. That's why I didn't go pro in basketball. I'm going to say this. Like, I wanted to, but I didn't take the action. That's why now when I coach artists and mentor artists, like, yeah, you want to be that, but you are unwilling to put in the real work and the real, and that includes networking, self-promotion, not just you can crush a set. That's the first, of course. Yeah. You got to learn how to play basketball. Right. Then there's everything else that follows it. So, yeah, it's important. Hard work. It just goes across the board.
And what are some parties you guys have been working to put together that are coming up? You have Palo Temple next weekend?
Yeah, next weekend. When's this being aired so that I know how much I can share?
As soon as next week or the week after.
Yeah, so Palo Temple, Aerod, Randomers coming out. And then we're also doing a few expansion events. So as part of our 15-year anniversary, we're doing San Francisco this Friday. I'm going to be out there. Atlanta on the 18th, Phoenix on the 1st, and then Mexico City on December 15th. And Mexico City is a market that we're definitely curious about, and we keep getting invited back thanks to Alejandro over at Common Sense Records for doing a great job building the scene out there. I just wanted to quickly highlight that. And anyone that's watching this, besides Amsterdam, Mexico City is definitely another one.
Oh man, I still haven't been yet. I hear so many good things. Yeah, you got to make that happen.
It's wonderful, and we hope the techno scene continues to grow over there. So I guess I'll share after that. We are also, helping the Observe people, do their show, and they always do a wonderful, just proper vibes as well. And then we have, Excel Showcase, which, well, it's not called the Excel Showcase, but we have Excel artists, Milo Spikers and Al Alvars, Mia Inferno, and then Richie Houghton on the 9th. And then the night before that, we have a legend, Marco Bailey, along with Brennan Gray. And then they'll take us through pretty much the end of the year with the Reform Hard Techno Edition. And then New Year's Eve Compound with stellar lineup. So and then into the new year.
Do you how far out do you guys book? Do you have the full year in advance?
Yeah, so by mid-December we should have our first quarter dates announced. I kid you not, when Marco puts in the work, I kid you not. He we're pretty much pushing the calendar forward. So we're gonna be announcing them very soon, and we're booked out pretty much through end of May going into June right now at this point. It's because we're competing with Europe as well too. They're also booked further out. They are booked a year in advance, September 2024 is on there. Really?
Holy shit.
That's how they are doing it. So in order to keep up, we gotta stay with it as well. feel like I'm sharing too much. I'm sharing too much.
So when you were out there in Amsterdam, sort of communing with other promoters from other parts of the world, were there any sort of best practices that came up that you learned? Like, oh, I should be implementing that these guys in Argentina are doing or wherever?
Well, not so much with the ones that we met over dinner because we're not there seeing their parties. If anything, we're just going to the parties and like, you see, this is why we totally need more smoke. Like we can't even see anything right now. Like and people, no, just seriously, it was awesome. And then you hit the strobes when you can't. Oh man, it's just like we need to do this. Definitely found some inspiration in that. And then in terms of just sound quality, that's something that, we know it's important, but I think this time around, it's like, no, if we can plan this a little bit better, communicate with our vendors a little bit more, how can we really create that experience? Super important. I mean, those are, yes, indeed best practices, but I feel like in Europe, it's a normal practice and stuff. Right. And here's one of the most inspiring things. And I want to give a shout out to the sound guy at this school. This is like 9 a.m. Maybe like 90 people on the dance floor. DJ Nobu's on. It's going. It's a sold out weekend. It's going to be a great weekend. The guy keeps coming back every 10, 15 minutes, just standing right there where I'm actually just dancing in the back. And I keep seeing him coming back. And I'm like, oh my gosh, he is making sure it is tuned like proper at 8:30. I go up to him, I go, hey man, first of all, I just want to let you know it's 9:30. I was like, it's been sounding amazing all night. I'm like, thank you very much. And I go, I appreciate what you're doing right now. And he looked at me and he was like, thank you. As if, we connected for sure. Because it's like, no one's ever. And that's the thing I pay attention. Like, man, like, who are you? I should have asked for his name. I was, it was 9:30 in the morning and stuff. And he looked like he wanted to go back and fix something. Not sure what it was. But
he's like, he wanted to be working too.
Right. Maybe he didn't like how the hi-hat. I'm like, it sounds perfect. Yeah. All night. All my friends that were there, asked Marco, how was the sound? Amazing. Didn't matter where you stood. And that dedication, that is inspiring. And that goes for every one of us. It's why when volunteers are smiling and changing toilet paper in the porta potties at 3 a.m., I'm fired up. I'm like, that's the one. Like, these things do happen and they end up being our permanent, staff member event. It's just like, it's an unspoken rule almost. The dedication is inspiring.
So passion's a big part of the 6 a.m. ethos too.
Absolutely. You gotta love the part that nobody even likes, right? Everybody only, what are they there for? They're there for the party. They're there for themselves, for their own enjoyment. We are there in the back serving. Yes, there are promoters that party with the party. That's why they don't. I'm just gonna say that's why they don't go anywhere. That's why they don't expand. They don't. We are there pretty serious in terms of what we're doing. We run a pretty tight ship. Anyone that's been there feels safe, feels smooth. And it's that dedication. And it's not just I'm dedicated. It's not just Marco's dedicated. Tommy's dedicated. Giant. No, we need everybody. It's a culture. Yeah, we need, and if you're not dedicated, all good. Then just enjoy the party. You don't need to join our team. Yeah, we don't. I don't. We don't need this. Like, it doesn't need to be that hard. Like, you got to really just want it. And like, okay, if you get it, your action will show through time, through consistency. You can show up one night and crush it, but I believe in consistency. Well, we have an event next weekend. 2 more, 2 weeks after that, 3 more, 1 more. Who keeps showing up? Who keeps showing up?
How does that work? Just in terms of people who want to work with you or for you, are they encouraged to just go to parties first? And then...
obviously, the quickest and easiest way is our event volunteer program. But, there was a period where we were hyper recruiting and stuff. And, that period has ended because now we do have a pretty solid base and stuff. And so if you want to at least just get involved or at least get part of our circle and, to come see what we do behind the scenes, learn, meet us. I usually meet every staff and volunteer that works these events. Obviously, that's the best route. Now, in terms of landing a permanent, thing, you got to understand what value you can bring into the table. And obviously, if you're like, hey, I have a sick DJ record, obviously that ain't going to cut it. But hey, if you have, I see what you guys are doing the marketing side. I see what you guys are doing content marketing. I see, I have an idea for a blog article, blah, blah, like what, there's definitely angles that will get my attention immediately.
Got it.
And if you're able to see the pockets, since we do so much, right? That's one way to definitely get in, because, we're looking to always do things better. And I've realized through time that I have to let my pride and ego down. If I'm the smartest person in the group, we're fucked. We're fucked. Which is why I make sure everyone around me is better than me, smarter than me. And I have to work on my insecurity. Like, they think I'm stupid. Seriously, just sometimes I sit there and be like, you guys think I'm dumb?
I mean, no, you're running the ship, dude. Like,
no, I think the problem is like, you can be dumb if you're willing to listen, right? Because if you're dumb and not willing to listen, then like there's no helping you at all.
Yeah. It's a real conversation I had with Mark. I was like, do you think? He's like, no, brother, no. Like, stop. Like, don't talk to yourself like that. Like, thank you. All right. Sometimes I know I made so much mistakes. Like, well, this is, it's part of your learning curve.
Of course.
It's like, I got to also preach what I teach as well. And sometimes it's really hard when you're in your own zone that you have your own advice. How would you tell a friend? And so, yeah, just a shout out to my people closest to me, including my fiance Lois as well, who has to bear the brunt, the nastiest days of what's wrong with this guy.
Say what? Behind every great man's a great woman, right? So,
yeah, awesome.
Okay, well, coming down on time, so.
Oh yeah,
that was great.
The hour
yeah, there you
just
go.
flies by.
It's like I saw you. Yeah, no, it's like a DJ set. It's like, oh my god, it's over, it's over. Especially that. No, right.
Well,
bring in the.
Yeah, I gotta slam their final track.
Bring the outro. Bring
one
the
more
outro.
song, one more question.
Yeah,
on time. I know.
I got one last one with the time we have left.
Okay.
So I definitely seen that. 6 a.m. has its kind of hand in everything. It's got like the artist program, it's got the residence program, all these different sort of initiatives, right? Where does that come from? Is that all you, or is that people coming to you like, hey, it'd be a good idea if we did this, and you're like, yeah, let's try it out?
Okay, so it started way back in the day. Like, how did I really become a full-fledged promoter? Why do we have a media outlet doing the SoundCloud and stuff? It was my first mentor. His name is Steve Pryor, Avalon, the resident DJ, former Smart Bar. Former Spy Bar. Sorry, former Spy Bar, the resident, my big bro. I still, to this day, he says something that changed everything. I was going through a period where I was getting all the gigs. I was playing 4 or 5 times in Hollywood after hours, getting paid $300-400 a gig. 4 gigs. I was DJing. Hey. It's happening, but I'm sad. Why am I sad? I got what I wanted. And this is 10 a.m. at Joseph's. He's like, dude, why don't you be more than a DJ? He's like, maybe you'll be happier doing that since you're not happy playing 4 or 5 times a week. He's like, you know what? Great idea. I went home that night. I was like, thank you for that. From that moment, I realized, you know what? Just because you started off wanting to be something like that one, right? There's a whole industry and community and whole possibilities. And so with that, I became very open-minded, which is why, if you go on my bio, I've done tour managing. I was once an agent. I fired myself from that. We have the shop, we have Artist Map, and because of Artist Map, that really reinvigorated my purpose. So a lot of the times it was that I was trying to find my happiness through it. This is why I relate so much to Anthony Bourdain's documentary, because he kept trying to look for it. And for me, it's like, maybe if I become a promoter, I'll be happier. Maybe if I do content and reach out to all these outlets and serve them, I'll be happier. Maybe this Artist Map course, etc. And like, what's crazy is everything is here. Even a festival in Guam that's 10 years old. There were days this year. Ask people on my team, they did not hear from me till like 11 a.m. Or I show up to a meeting with like, hey man, it looked like you just woke up. It's crazy. And ultimately I'm going to end it with this. You have to find your purpose. Rather, like, you have to keep that constant. And where I find my purpose is I realize, it's serving the community. Which is why if you have an event, you have a premiere, you have whatever, hey, can you guys promote this? Yes, sometimes we charge because we have a team. I have to pay them. We have to pay them. And obviously it's an industry, but we are willing to help. And definitely more on the artist side of it. That's why I made Artist Map Phase 1 for free. And And the following course is really cheap, $29. I even have a 50% off code on Black Friday, like here, and it's because of that. I found my purpose thanks to John Digweed.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah, thanks to John Digweed. He's like, my boy, or not, he didn't say my boy, but he's like, son, stop worrying about your passion. Worry about your purpose. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's brilliant. And through that purpose journey, it created Artist Map. It created the principles of electronic music, that long blog post that I wrote. I'm like, why don't we have this? It created why we're the nice. We are known as the nicest people in the industry. We're very nice. If you have, I'll just say this out loud. Yeah, this is an internal rule that we have. If someone else has booked a DJ that we really want to book, either we ask them for permission or we don't book them. Or if we ask them for permission and they say no, then we're like, okay, fine. We'll do. Do you know how ridiculous when agents hear that? Like, really? So you guys are not, yeah. So out of respect, we will not do that. And there are people from New York, from like, the hell you guys are. But it's okay, hey, there's so many DJs in the world. Yes, there's only one I Hate Models, 9x9, Fiac, etc. There's only one Richie Houghton, all that. But in this grand scheme of things, then let's give this opportunity to the next one that has been prepared, that's been grinding for 20, 30 years, 15 years.
Yeah.
That we are the platform that could be their first West Coast tour, LA show. We don't see it as a loss. We see it, again, what stands in the way becomes the way. Does it suck? Yeah, it does. But we believe that our time will come if we remain in it, remain in this journey. So,
boom.
That's amazing.
Sick outro.
Yeah.
Love that.
On that note, peace out. Yeah, thank you guys so much. Yeah, it was great talking and great.
Thanks for letting me guest host.
Of course.
Yeah, awesome, man. Yeah, we'll definitely get this out, get this promoted. I mean, I see you guys also do little clips, edits. We'll blast it out.
And we'll see you on the dance floor.
Yes, see you on the dance floor. And yeah, thank you, Omar, for the invite as well. So awesome.
All right.
Sweet.